Hey guys, this is your video for equations with variables on both sides. This is our last part before we get ready to practice for our test that will be coming up soon. So this is just pretty much what it means, is that variables are going to be on both sides of the equation sign. So it makes it a little bit tougher. So you're going to have variables on both sides of your equation. So what happens is you just have steps to solve these. These are pretty straightforward. You're still going to use the inverses of these things when you do these. So the first things you need to know is if you have to distribute, if there's any distributing first, combine your like terms, if there's anything that's necessary. Then the second part is the biggest part. On one side of the equal sign, you're going to collect your variables, and on the other side of the equal sign, you want to collect all your numbers. Then solve the equation. And what it's going to turn into is going to turn into a two-step equation. So what we're going to do is one side we're going to put all the numbers, one side we're going to put all the letters or the variables, and then we're just going to solve it just like a two-step equation. So instead of me just sitting here and talking to you, let's look at one. So here's your first problem. You can see that you have variables on both sides of the equation. There's your two variables. And that's not like how we have seen these before. Before, we've only seen variables on one side of the equation. But we can solve this. We just got to go through our steps, and just like we've ever done anything before, if we move something from one side of the equal sign to the other side to keep it balanced, we just do the opposite. And you can move entire numbers with variables as well. So what I do here is I draw my line down here. It's my dividing line. And I want to determine which side I want to move my variable side to be and which side I want my number side to be. The best case here is I want to move the variables over to the side so I can stay with positives. So if I look at this and I see I got an 8, that's positive. So to move it over, I'd have to subtract. If I subtract 4 from 8, it gives me a negative number. I don't want that. So let's see if I can move this one over here. If I move a positive 4, I have to subtract. And I'm going to subtract over here from the same thing because those are like terms. And those go away. 4 minus 4 is 0. And 8 minus 4 is 4x. But what do I have left? I have a minus 7 and a positive 21. That is a two-step equation. And now I can solve this by moving over my start and moving my change. So here's my starting value, which will be a plus 7. So I have 4x left on my variable side, and I have a 28 on my number side. Last step is just to divide by 4. And when I divide 28 by 4, I find my answer to be 7. So that is basically all I need to do. So let's look at another example here. Number 2. Draw my line down the middle because I have variables on both sides. So all I need to do here is I try to make them positive, but all you need to really think about is which side do you want the variables to be on, which side do you want the numbers to be on. So if I think about it here, if I take this 11 over, it's negative, I have to add it. So if I do negative 2 plus 11, that's going to give me a positive 9. So I'm going to do it that way. So I'm going to call this my variable side, and this will be my number side. So I'm going to add 11x to the negative 2x. And when I do that, that goes away. And I'm left with 9 is equal to negative 2 plus 11. Well, that gives me 9x plus 45. Now I'm not quite done yet because now I have it where I need to be. This is a two-step equation, and I can now solve this. Here's my start value. I'm going to move him over to my finish. I can put it in my organizer if I need to. And so the 45s go away, and when I take 9 from 40, or 9 minus a 45, and I can put it right in my calculator so I don't mess up on that. 9 take away 45 gives me negative 36 equals 9 times x. And what times 9 gives me negative 36? Well, I had to get that by dividing. And I find out my x is going to be negative 4. Pretty straightforward right there. So if you take your time with these, you can be able to handle these and get these answers correctly. All I did, just to recap, was I moved one of my variables over to the other side, and bam, there pops out a two-step equation. Then all I have to do is just solve from there. Okay? Pick which side I want my variables to be, which side I want my numbers to be. So let's look at this number 3. I have another one here with two variables on the same side, and so I'm going to highlight, and I'm going to highlight here. There are my two variables, and I got to get them on the same side of the equation, and I always like to think about them with positives. So if I think about it here, that's a positive 6, a positive 13. So if I move the 13 over, 6 minus 13 is a negative 7. I don't want that. I don't want, see, 6 minus 13 is a negative 7. I don't want a negative. I mean, you can have a negative if you want to mess around with the negatives. It's fine. It works. But I like to keep them positive. If you like to do it, you can move the 13 or you can move the 6. It doesn't matter. But I'm going to move the 6. I'm going to move it over here. So minus 6, minus 6. And so what I'd have, these go away. And all I'm left here with is 13 minus 6, which is 7x plus 9 is equal to, this is a negative 12 right there. See that? A negative 12. So now all I need to do is, wham bam, that looks like a two-step equation. That's why two steps are very, very important to be able to solve. This two-step equation, there it is. And I just start solving. Move my start over to my finish. I'm left with a variable on one side. And this right here, negative 12 minus 9. It is not 3. It's negative 12 minus 9. I get negative 21. And what times 7 gives me 21? Well, I do the opposite or the inverse of that, and it tells me that it is going to be negative 3. So that would be my solution. So far we've done some pretty basic ones, just moving the variables on one side. So you can move them from one side to the other. It does not matter. Here's a number 4. Number 4 is a little more difficult, but let's take a look and see what we have here. Okay, so if I draw my line down the middle, and remember my steps here says to distribute. Well, I have no distribution property, but I have a combine like terms. I can combine this term and that term together first. I can clean that up. So by cleaning that up, negative 2 plus 15, and put that right in my calculator, negative 2 plus 15 to make sure I get it right there, and it gives me 13. So I now know on this side, I have an 8x plus 13. And it's still equal to 1 plus 14x. I'm going to show all my steps, show my work, what I'm doing here. Now I'm good to go. Now I can see, okay, well I have no more to clean up. I got variables on both sides right here. And let's just move one over. Let's make it a negative. So I'm going to move the 14 just so that you can see that it still works. So if I move that over, I now have wham bam, that's gone. I'm left with 1 is equal to 8 minus 14 is negative 6 with the x, because I took 8 x's and I subtracted 14 of them. And now I have plus 13, and look, there's my two-step equation. So all I need to do is solve this by subtracting my start to my finish. He's gone. I'm left here with negative 12 is equal to negative 6x. And when I divide those two by the negative 6 over, because that's multiplying, I'm going to end up finding my answer to be 2. 2 will be my solution. So there it is. So just to recap, what I did here was I combined my terms together because I saw I can combine those together. When I combined those together, I got my second step part. Found my two variables on the side, and I just moved them. And then got my two-step equation and solved. Pretty straightforward if you do that. If you take your time showing your work through this. Okay? Number 5. It's kind of a problem here that you have. You've got your two variables on the sides right here, 8x and negative 12x. And what I'm going to do here, before I even read the problem, I'm going to solve it to see how I would do this. Okay? So if I solve this problem here, 8x minus 19 is equal to negative 12x plus 61. Variables are on the both sides, so I can't have that. I need to have my variables combined together on one side of the equal sign. So to make it easier here, this is a plus, so if I move it over, it's got to be a minus. If I move this over, it's got to be a plus. So I'm going to add, because 2 positives give me positive, so I'm going to add the 12. You could have subtracted this 8. It works the same way. When I do so here, 8 plus 12x combines to give me 20x. Take away 19. What does I have left over here? I have a 61. Those went away. Now this is my two-step problem. So basically I got it down to my two-step, and now I can solve. Move my start over to my finish, I get 20x is equal to 19 plus 61. It's going to give me 80. Divide by 20 on both sides. X is 4. So that is my solution. Now, the question here asks us to solve it, but also asks us, it says, Jane thinks the first step should be subtract 12. But Allie thinks we should add 12. Who do you think is correct? So let's look. If Jane said to subtract that 12, Allie says to add that 12. Because remember, we're going across the equal sign. So when we do across the equal sign, we have to do the inverse. So since that's a negative 12, and we're going across the equal sign, we have to do the opposite. So the opposite there would be Allie is correct. We're finished. That is how you will do variables on both sides. On the back, you have 6 problems that you can work on. These 6 problems will be for you to work on, and Mr. O has the answer sheet for you so that you can check them. Okay? Please work on them, review your steps, take your time, and show your work. Thank you very much.